In the past two videos, we saw how to set and first create a path and set a couple of options. Now I select the path, and in this video we are going to talk and explain all these options and how they work. Now, first of all, we need to select the path and have a look at the properties panel. Now here we have two sections. The crowd section, which is related to the way the characters are being distributed along the path, and then the path basic properties. We will start from this, okay? So the first options is the path direction mode. Now we already talked about this, and we saw by looking at this little double arrow, okay, then this path is set to be both direction, okay? So through this option we can change this from both to forward or backward. As you can see, it's not needed to be clicked the generate button. We don't have to, but we can just change this and see the result in the viewport, okay? The next option is the stair direction rules. Now this means that when a character has to go up the stair or go down the stair, can choose a side. In this case, this character can choose the right side, this one, or the left side, or both. At the moment is the right side set, but we can choose left or both. Okay? Quite simple and clear. Now, the third option is the width of all path points. Now, if we deselect the path by clicking outside, and we place the cursor on the border, here we have the chance, as we did in previous videos, to change globally the width of the path. Now, select the path, and these options has to do exactly with that. This value sets all the values, the width values, into all the nodes that creates the path. This means, however, that if we change this value, we will reset or simply lose our settings specific to certain points, like for example this one, and this one. Okay, so keep in mind, I would suggest you use the global way of changing the width and then changing the specific nodes you need, or you can start by changing this value and then changing the nodes locally. Okay, perfect. Then we have the ghost threshold. Okay, this is a threshold distance. Below this distance between characters, some of those characters can be converted to ghosts. Why? Because when two or more characters are too close between each other, there can be issues of collisions. So for that reason, Anima chooses to skip some of these characters to avoid issues. Okay, so we can set this option to control that minimum distance. And then we have the last option of the path properties, which is related to something we will be covering in later videos, and is the possibility to assign to a path a specific motion clip or category of motion clips. Motion clips are the animations used by these characters. Okay, so we will be talking about this more in detail later on. Now, let's go back to the crowd section. Okay, we have the first two options we already covered, the list of actors we want to use from the library to populate this path, and then the actor count. I won't explain this again. Then the first option we are going to cover in this video is the key positions and rotations. Now, this is very important because every time we click on generate, whether it is red or gray, it doesn't matter, okay? If I click now, all the characters will change positions and orientations, okay? I remember you that these are all characters in automatic mode. They are controlled by whom? These options, okay? Important. Now, with this option set to no, actually each time I click generate, these positions and orientations, rotations if you prefer, changes. Now, if I set this to yes, this doesn't happen. Okay, if I left click on generate now, as you can see, the characters changes the model. For example, this character before was a man, now is a woman. Or they can change the clothes. Let's say the visual appearance. So why this is useful? Why is this interesting? Because let's say that we got the right distribution, the right placement on the path, and we don't want to change it. We want to keep going with variations, but we don't want to change the positions of the characters. Okay, so this is quite interesting in that case. I will set it back to no. Okay, and then going to the socialization random percentage. Okay, these options is not specifically related to the path, but is related to another situation where a path crosses or touches an area of socialization, which is another kind of simulation element we have here in Anima. So this percentage tells me that the 25% of my characters will be leaving the path, entering the area, and starting socializing between them. Okay? So this is exactly what this does, controls. Now, the next option is the animation phase random. Now, consider that most of the characters here share animations, the same animation. So imagine to start the simulation, to start the animation, and all the characters start the same animation at the same point in time. Okay? Consider that an animation is a loop. In this case, this animation we are using in Anima. They are loops. So the start, it's the same as the end. So this loop can be made. Now consider that to create variations, Anima let us choose a range between the start of that animation and the end. In this case, the start is represented by the 0 value and the end is the 100% value. Okay? In this case, we are telling Anima to, when starts the simulation and for each character can choose the starting point, the offset if you prefer, of that animation loop between the 0, the start of that animation loop, and the 100%, the end of that animation loop. But we could compress this. Okay, this is a double slider. Okay, we can left click and drag. Let's say that I will set this to 25. Okay, and this to 70. So we are compressing the place inside the animation loop where the start for each character can be chosen randomly. Okay, this is quite interesting. We could, for example, set this to 50, the minimum, and 50 the maximum. And what we could achieve this way, that each character will start at the same time in the same place in the loop timeline of that animation. Okay, this is not something very interesting unless we want them to be all robots. It depends on what we want to get. Okay, so I will keep it to 15 and 85, something like this. Then we go to the two options most related to the distribution, even because they have the distribution word inside their name. The cross distribution and the longitudinal distribution. These are also percentage. Okay, the cross distribution is the distribution of each character across the width of the path in a specific point. Let's say that this character here, let's try this. This character here, when it's created, it's placed almost, well, in this area here. Okay, so the character, in this case, the cross distribution tells Anima how much of that width in that point of the path can be used by the characters. In this case, the minus 100% and the positive 100% means all the width. Okay, so this way all the characters will be placed from the left border up to the right border. depending obviously on the character directions. Okay, so this way we can, for example, let's say that I want to place the 0 and 0. What do you think this will cause? Well, let's click generate, and as you can see, all the characters are right in the middle. Why is that? Because 0 in a cross distribution is the middle of the width in that point on the path. Okay, so this way we can, for example, force all the characters to move in a line, a straight line, or simply in a queue. Okay, so as you remember, for example, here we have a preset button about how to create queues. So I will again set this to -80 and 80. Okay, we can also do things which are not symmetrical. Okay, but this, well, let's say like something like this. Well, let's put to 80 and that's it. Then the longitudinal distribution is the position, the distribution of the characters along the path length. Okay, so at the moment it's used 100% of the length of the path. This means that all the path can be used. But what if I set, for example, the maximum to 50 and click on generate? As you can see, I'm using only half of the path. So for this reason, with this option, we can then define where we want the simulation to start. Consider to start, because this is the starting distribution, and then the characters, they will keep going, disappear here, and appears again here. But we will have always the 50% of the path empty this way. Okay, so I will keep this 100% and click generate to have them more distributed. Okay, so these are the two options more related to the distribution, overall distribution. Then we have the spacing random percentage, which is another option related to socialization areas. When a character, one of those of the 25%, left the path and entered the area, in this area will start to socialize, to get in groups and talk to others, all this handled by anima. Okay, then the spacing random is a value that controls the distance between these characters when socializing. Quite simple. Then we have the side path tendency. At the moment, this side path tendency is disabled. Okay, so this is disabled. Why? Because we have the path direction mode set to one direction only. Okay, so this option here, side path tendency percentage, is related to the both directions option to be active. So I will left click here, set to both, and as you can see, this is activated. Now, why is this interesting? Because as you, for example, let's see, here in this part of the path is narrow. So we could have a problem when having characters go in both directions to have more collision issues. Okay, let's click on generate just to have this. Okay, so these two characters, for example, this woman and this man, when cross, they could have some problems in this place. So what I can do is tell anima to push how much it can push the characters towards the sides. At the moment is 100%, but I can set it, for example, to 200%, which is the maximum. So I will click on generate. Okay, and now as you can see, all the characters are pushed to the sides. Now we can work with this option together with the cross distribution, which defines the limits on the sides. Okay, so this way, if I hit spacebar, I can avoid characters to be creating collision issues. So this is very important to be worked with. Okay, then we get to the final part, and it's about the clustering. Clustering is the ability to for anima to create groups, in this case on the path. Okay, if you remember, here we have a preset button about creating multiple small groups then these are the options that we can use to recreate that situation. Okay. Now the clustering at the moment is 0. It means that no clusters, no groups will be generated. Okay. And actually the last two options, cluster distribution ratio and cluster distribution radius, are disabled. Why? Because the clustering is 0. But for example, let's say they put clustering to 80. Many clusters. Even so, the two options are disabled. In this case, we have to hit generate. Okay, just go for generate, and as you can see, we have groups. Now consider one thing. To create groups, we need on one side to set the proper in this case the proper percentage. I will just lower it to 50 just to okay. So the higher the value of the clustering, the more characters will group, okay, in one group, obviously. But remember that also you need a certain amount of actors on the path to be generated to being able to have groups of certain dimensions, okay, certain size. So I will set the actor count to 35, okay. I will click generate, and as you can see, we have many more groups. Okay, the cluster distribution ratio is a little bit tricky, but it's quite simple. As you can see, it has a 0 value by default, and the slider is placed in the middle because it can have negative values and positive values. When we set, for example, a negative value of -13 and click generate, as you can see, we force all the characters in a group to be in a queue. On the other side, if we change this to a positive value of 13 and click generate, what it does is to distribute the characters horizontally across the width of the path. Now I will increase, to make this more visible, the clustering percentage. I will set it to 80, generate. You see? More horizontally. Of course, depending on the number of actors we have, we can have a straight line or just 3-4 characters. It depends on what? It depends on the width of the path in that place. Okay? Very important. And then the cluster distribution radius is a minimum and a maximum value about the distance, the minimum and maximum distance between characters inside a cluster, inside a group. Okay? So these are the options of about distribution for the crowd and the path properties. They are quite simple in the end, but I understand that you will need more practice to understand them well and understand that by combining them there can be many combinations. Okay? So what I suggest you is obviously to make practice, but you can start always by choosing a preset button that will set all these options in a certain way, and then you will change those values you will need to get the specific result you are looking for. Okay? So for this video, we will stop here. See you soon.